I'd like to welcome everyone back to the afternoon session of the Board of County Commissioners. The time is approximately 2 p.m. We did have a late break for our morning session, so we opted to, instead of doing 1:30, we did 2 o'clock. Next on the agenda is the public hearing. So we have acceptance approved publication.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Our staff will present each item for consideration with staff recommendation. The board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when the presentation is finished. The applicant will be given an opportunity to make the presentation. The board will have a chance to ask questions once the presenters are finished. Members of the public interested in speaking for or against the project or issue, please fill out the yellow speaker form located in the lobby. Indicate the number, and whether you're for or against it, and place it in the tray or give it to Shani. Shani, would you raise your hand, please? There you go. Thank you. Members of the public will be allowed to speak once per item. If you'd like to have your comments submitted to the record, please fill out the green form in the lobby and give it to Shani as well. Speakers should state their name and address clearly for the record and whether they're for or against the item. Speakers will be given 3 minutes unless they're an official spokesperson of an HOA or an organization, a group, and then they'll be given 6 minutes. If board members has any questions regarding the speaker comments, an opportunity to be given once the speaker's time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments pertinent to the information regarding the agenda. Clerk would be required to obtain all documents, photographs, drawings, or anything that's presented to the board so we can have a proper and precise public record presented to the Board of County Commissioners. So if you show it to us, please be prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all the speakers are heard, the applicant will be given another opportunity to rebut, if necessary. It's not another presentation, it's a rebuttal. We will close public hearing, and the matters will be in the hands of the Board of County Commissioners for discussion, recommendation, or motion. Following the motion and a second, the board will have a discussion, and the vote will be taken. Commissioners who do not cast a vote are to be considered in voting in support of the motion. On the quasi-judicial, the public is welcome to comment on all things proceedings in the public quasi-judicial. Florida state law that the board's discussion and quasi-judicial action will be supported by competent, sustainable evidence presented by the board during the public hearing of application. Competent, sustainable evidence is such evidence that's reasonable in mind that it would be acceptable and adequate in support of the conclusion. There must be factual base in record to support the opinion and testimony of both experts and non-expert witnesses. Is there anyone here that on the board that has any quasi-judicial or ex parte communication? I do.
I do.
Can you? This would be the time to submit it to the clerk.
I think mine has been submitted already electronically. Oh, thanks.
Mine will be submitted electronically, Chairman.
Thank you.
Mine has been submitted electronically.
Electronic as well.
Great. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present as presented by the county staff and the applicant. Any persons who's given information to the board in consideration must ensure that the copy is presented to the clerk so we can have a public record. So if you do present it to us, be prepared to leave it with us. Okay. So the next item we have on the public hearing of quasi-judicial is item number 37. At this time, we'll hear from staff.
Good afternoon. Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. The Cadence Park PD Major Amendment Rezone is a request for rezone from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development on 29.2 acres to remove 0.33 acres from the Cadence Park PD and transfer it to the Hidden Oaks PD. Cadence Park located on the south side of Ronald Reagan Boulevard, approximately a quarter-mile east of County Home Road. In 2015, the Board of County Commissioners approved the Cadence Park PD on 29.2 acres for a single-family residential subdivision of 99 lots. The density is 3.99 dwelling units per net buildable acre. In October of 2020, the Board of County Commissioners approved the Hidden Oaks PD on 31.52 acres located directly south of the Cadence Park PD. The Hidden Oaks PD was approved for 109 single-family residential lots to be developed in 3 phases. Access to the development is from a network of county roads known as Gardens Drive and South Lane, with a secondary gated access from Sunnyside Drive. The applicant is requesting a PD major amendment rezone to transfer .33 acres from the Cadence Park PD to the Hidden Oaks PD to provide vehicular and pedestrian access between the 2 subdivisions. The Hidden Oaks PD will become Phase 2 of the existing Cadence Park subdivision and will access from Red Pine Way and Monterey Cypress Trail within the Cadence Park subdivision. A secondary gated emergency-only access is proposed from South Lane, and the original secondary access from Sunnyside Drive will be removed. To accommodate the additional traffic at the intersection of Red Pine and Ronald Reagan Boulevard, a right turn lane will be constructed. With the removal of the 0.33 acres from the Cadence Park PD, the development will still provide the minimum open space requirements. The PD major amendment is consistent with the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan by reducing the vehicular access points, which will prevent through traffic over multiple public roads and provide pedestrian connection between the residential subdivisions. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant did conduct a community meeting on June 13th, 2022. The Planning and Zoning Commission Board met on August 3rd, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt a proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from PD to remove 0.33 acres and to allow primary access to the Hidden Oaks subdivision from the Cadence Park subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Thank you, Joy. This time we have from the applicant. Is the applicant present?
Oops.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Mackey. I'm a landscape architect and land planner with the Daily Design Group. Our office is located at 913 West Pennsylvania Ave in Winter Park, Florida. First of all, I just want to thank you for your time today. I'm here with some representatives from MI Homes. I got Tita Demostine, Dave Brown, as well as Jared Wilkin, if you have any questions for them, as well as Tom Daly with my office and David Glunt, the engineers, with me as well. So, as we're talking about today, Cadence Park and Hidden Oaks, Evergreen Cadence Park is a 95-lot subdivision. MI Homes was the builder of that community. It's been a very successful community. It's almost built out. The way that exists now, the gated entrance is on Red Pine and Ronald Reagan Ave, and what we're looking to do is build Phase 2 of Cadence Park. Phase 2 was Hidden Oaks. In 2020, we came in with an application to rezone the property with a different developer. It was Troon Development at the time, and there was a different builder at the time as well on board. So we worked with staff and county commission, and we came up with South Lane as our access to this project. It's not our preferred access. It's a 30-foot right-of-way. It doesn't meet county standards. But at the time, it was the only access that we had to the site. Since that time, MI has purchased this property. We're in contact with it, and now they're looking to develop Phase 2 of Cadence Park. So what we're asking for is to amend the PSPs to allow South Lane, instead of being the primary residential access, to become an emergency-only access, and then have the primary access from Red Pine Lane on 1792. We've been working with staff. They're supportive of our application, as well as we've worked with the fire department and everybody. They're good with what we're proposing. We had our planning and zoning meeting a couple months ago, and as Joy said, we got a unanimous support on the condition of the park and addressing the parks and the neighbors' concerns, or the neighborhood's concerns about putting a fence along the front of the park area to protect the children from the road, as well as a part of listening to the residents and slowing down. The residents are concerned about traffic flowing through there. We're proposing to put a landscape median or a roundabout in that area as another way to address the community's concerns, help slow down traffic. So we did hold a community meeting on June 13th. We had sent out about 650 notifications, and we had about 40 people in attendance. The meeting lasted for 2 hours, and a lot of the conversation was centered upon traffic coming through Cadence Park, the traffic up on Ronald Reagan and that intersection, and those were the basic concerns of the community. So, So we have submitted for traffic improvements, a traffic report along with this application. It's been reviewed by staff, and what has come to terms is that there'll be a right-in or a decel lane on Ronald Reagan to help mitigate. That's what the traffic report says that we need, and that's what staff has agreed to. So, and then the only other thing that I would like to add is that when Cadence Park was being developed, when homeowners came in to purchase the property, they did have an opportunity to review a contract addendum, letting them know that there may be a possibility of a phase 2, that traffic would be maybe moving through their community, that it would be altered a little bit. And this document also follows it in the covenants, so it does move forward with each lot. So it wasn't just the initial home buyer. So with that, I'm here to ask you for your support, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we're going to go to the public. Shaney, I have to ask, do you have any written requests?
We do not, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to us on this issue? Anyone in the public? I'm going to close public comments. Public comments is now closed. This is a District 2 item. We're going to be asking the District Commission for the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank MI and Daily Group for having a community meeting and reaching out to those neighbors. It's always better that you understand what is going on in your neighborhood, so I thank you all for doing that and making sure that you're addressing those concerns they have with the playground and some of the traffic flow, as well as our engineering staff and working with them as well. So with that said, I'll move the motion, adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development, and approve the associated master development plan and development order on 29.2 acres located on the south side of North Ronald Reagan Boulevard, approximately a quarter mile east of County Home Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. This time we'll go to item number 38. I believe it's Joy as well.
Yes, this is the Hidden Oaks PD Major Amendment rezone, directly related to the previous item. This request is for a major amendment rezone from PD to PD on 31.87 acres to add 0.33 acres into the PD. The Hidden Oaks PD is located approximately 1,700 feet south of the intersection of North Ronald Reagan Boulevard and Red Pine Way. In October of 2020, the board approved the Hidden Oaks PD on 31.52 acres located directly south of the Cadence Park PD. Hidden Oaks was approved for 109 single-family residential lots with access from a network of county roads known as Gardens Drive, South Lane, and a secondary gated emergency-only access from Sunnyside Drive. The applicant is requesting the major amendment, as previously stated, to transfer 0.33 acres from Cadence Park to Hidden Oaks, which will also include the park area. The area right there highlighted in blue is currently the park, the open space park area for Cadence Park. This is the portion that will be transferred into Hidden Oaks along with a portion of the right-of-way right there. The proposed amendment still supports the objectives of the PD zoning designation by exceeding the minimum required 25% open space and creating the vehicular and pedestrian connectivity between subdivisions. The proposed the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan by reducing the vehicular access points, which will prevent through traffic on multiple public roads. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant did conduct their community meeting on June 13th, 2022. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on August 3rd, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request with the added condition that the developer install a 4-foot-high aluminum picket fence along the perimeter of the playground adjacent to the right-of-way, and a 6-foot-high solid fence around the remaining perimeter of the playground. This was to address some safety concerns that the residents had. This condition has been added to the development order listed under Condition O. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from PD to PD and approve the associated master development plan on 31.87 acres as requested. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. Now we hear from the applicant. The applicant present would like to present.
Good afternoon. Once again, Bill Mackey with Daily Design Group, 913 Pennsylvania Ave, Winter Park, Florida. We agree with staff. Thank you, Joy and Bill and everybody for your help with this, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have.
Commissioner Zimbauer?
Thank you. I just want to get on the record, in the first phase of Cadence, and I've spoke to your representatives about this, we had problems with construction access coming off Thomas Stable, which is a private road that borders your community. I want to make sure we all understand that is not going to be utilized for access for construction.
Yes, sir. We do understand that. And since that time, we've put up physical barriers as well as landscaping along Thomas Stable to further not encourage people to cut through there.
Great.
But yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Shane, do you have any written requests? Thank you. Is anyone in the public that would like to speak to the board on this issue? Anyone in the public, either for or against? Going to close public comments. Public comments is now closed. It's a District 2 item. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, this is basically a second phase of what we just discussed previously. So I will move to adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from plan development to plan development and approve the associated master development plan and development order on 31.87 acres located approximately 1,700 feet south of the intersection of North Ronald Reagan Boulevard and Red Pine Way.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. This time, we'll go to item number 39. This falls under a public hearing legislatively. Mr. Van Gale, would you like to take the podium? Not take it, but present.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, and staff. My name is Andrew Van Gale. With me here today for the third year in a row is Matt Criswell, dedicated member of the Port Authority. And today we are presenting the Port Authority's fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget. Our Board of Directors for the Seminole County Port Authority approved this budget last June and recommends approval today by the Board of County Commissioners. And before we get into too many of the numbers, you have the budget in front of you and the budget memo. A few highlights of this year's accomplishments. We've maintained an occupancy rate all year long of 99.9% and have $0 in receivables. Nobody owes us any money. For the first time in quite some time, we will finish our year with the 100% collections and zero debts, bad debts. Customer retention rate for the year is over 90%. We're in the process of redeveloping a 3-acre site into a modern, energy-efficient commercial and industrial spaces. So approximately 24,000 square feet of new industrial space will be added to our inventory and will be there available for existing customers and new customers at the port. Also, we're really excited. We're working with Seminole County on the Orange Boulevard project and really expect this project to kind of change the face of the port, especially along the entranceway, which has been substandard for some time, standing water, antiquated facilities. But with this new plan, with that 1% sales tax on Orange Boulevard, it's really going to give us an opportunity to improve our entranceways. The radiuses will be wider. There'll be pedestrian, bicycle access, and it will give us a much-needed facelift and help to, further attract more quality customers to the port. So that's really exciting. We're looking forward to seeing that move along the way. And also want to thank Commissioner Herr for being involved with us for the past few years. It's really good. We have some traction and continuity at the port. We love all of you guys, but year after year with a different commissioner, we lose some traction. So we're super happy that she's there with the consistency. So for the budget, this year, we do have $400,000 that will be coming back to the Seminole County taxpayers in October out of the surplus funds for the year. And as we look into next year, and you can follow along page 2 of your budget memo, In addition to the operating expenses, the budget includes a capital improvement budget of $1.3 million for the 1,500 Dogner redevelopment project that I mentioned earlier. Our goal is to fully finance or fund this project without going to financing. So we're in permitting stage right now to move forward with the site permit there, and we think we can afford most of the project with the cash we have. So our summary, our total budget is $5,265,031. Our operational revenue is projected to be $1,996,857. Now, that includes a 15% vacancy rate, and we don't expect that to be realized next year. So that would add another few hundred thousand. So really expect to make revenues about $2,230,000 is more realistically by the time the year's ended. The expenditures, we're going to do a little deficit spending if our project and plans go through, especially with the capital improvements. So we're looking at expenditures of $2,785,038, giving us not necessarily a profit. We have a negative profit of $788,000, although we expect that to be reduced by increased occupancy based on our numbers at that 15% we mentioned. So in light of a little bit of a lower surplus, we did budget $300,000 for the Seminole County at the end of fiscal year 2023. And part of that agreement also is when we get to the end of the year, we do predict to have some extra funds that would be available for the county to get that number to the current year of $400,000. That's the goal of the Port Authority and the members. That would leave us a cash balance at the end of the budget year of $2,179,993. After accounting for reserves, be it capital improvement reserves, operational reserves, and deposit reserves that we must keep in the reserve account, our uncommitted cash balance at the end of the year would be $125,905. So that's potentially where we could add to the surplus fund contribution. And with that, we respectfully request the Seminole County Board of Commissioners adopt the Seminole County Port Authority's fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget. And we're here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Van Gale. First, our board member, Commissioner Herr, is on your board. Does she have any additional comments?
No, I'd just like to thank the team for attempting to expedite the rebuild so that we can start generating revenue and have that property returned to the bottom line for the citizens as well. And so the budget that's been submitted is contemplative of that being the driver.
Okay. Any other comments?
Now I'll wait for questions, till you get to questions.
Before we go to the board for direction, is there any written request to speak to the board? Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak to the board? Close. Please come to the podium.
Oh, on this topic.
On this topic, sir. On this topic.
Yes, on this
Okay.
topic. My name's Richard Young. What I have heard is you have millions of dollars worth of property and you're not making any money on it. That's foolish. That's a waste of taxpayers' money supporting this project. You need to sell it and get out from under it and put the assets back into the county.
Okay.
And what he's talking about is still losing money. It's not acceptable.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Van Gale, you have a moment, not just yet, but let us finish public comments. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak to the board on this issue? We'll close public input. Mr. Van Gale, would you like to rebut?
Thank you. You all know it's a solid enterprise. It turns a profit every year. There's no taxpayer funds going into it. And although I mentioned we are dipping into reserves to build a facility that would increase the revenue. So it is, in fact, the profit margin's usually around 50%. So it is a moneymaker. It is not a deficit at all. So it's.
So, Mr. Van Gale, for the record, the reserves you're talking about are reserves that were set up by the enterprise funds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Again, it's not the county's reserves.
No, sir. It's its own enterprise. It's very solvent and
Thank you.
very efficient.
It generates tax for the county through all the businesses that are there.
Okay, appreciate it. Any other comments for the board? Commissioner Zimbow.
I want to congratulate you all. I know you have had a lot of rebuilding and redevelopment going on there for some time, and I appreciate you all have done that without going to the market for loans. I also appreciate that this is an enterprise fund and it is not taxpayers' dollars that are funding this. And in fact, you've returned, in some cases, over $1 million to the county's taxpayers on an annual basis. How soon do you perceive, based on your rebuilding that you're doing over there now, when you start to see those levels come back to the historic $1 million coming back to the citizens of the county?
Thank you, and you're correct. For the past 15 years, I think the number is pushing $11 million in surplus funds that we've brought to the county, so about $700,000 a year on average we've returned in the past 15 years. I would think after a 3-year build-out, we'll start to see the numbers increase. I would think at least in $100,000 increments, and with the Orange Boulevard project, I think our future is even brighter. One of the issues now we have is raising rents. We have so many longtime tenants there and an older lease structure, so no one wants to leave. And when tenants leave, that's when our opportunity is to increase the rent. So we think with this new product, we're going to hold out for Class A tenants. We're going to try to be at or above market rates on our new products. And when we do have turnover, I mentioned 90% retention rate, so which is great because there's no receivables, there's no dead weight anymore. But there is opportunity to, with our new buildings, 3 to 5 years to go back to that $750,000 to $1 million level.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other comments for the board or questions? Direction from the board.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you,
guys.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Good luck today, Commissioners.
Take care. Thank you.
This time we're going to item number 40. We'll hear from staff at this time.
Good afternoon. Michael Eason from MSB program. The purpose of this public hearing today is to provide opportunity for public input prior to the board adopting and certifying the consolidated non-ad valorem assessment roll for tax year 2022. The assessment roll is a listing by parcel identification number of the assessments levied to fund public services that offer a special benefit to properties on a localized basis. Public services funded in Seminole County via non-ad valorem assessment include street lighting, residential solid waste management, aquatic weed control, as well as certain capital-funded projects like road paving, metered water service lines, and reconstruction of deteriorated neighborhood walls. Typically, these services are provided in response to property owner request. Given the localized benefit of these public services, assessment districts, referred to as Municipal Services Benefit Units, or MSBUs, are created to fund these services. When an MSBU is created, assessments are levied against those properties receiving benefits. The assessments are assigned on a specific unit of measure, such as per parcel or per dwelling. The 2022 non-ad valorem assessment roll, which consolidates the annual variable rate assessments and the capital assessment installment billings associated with all the active MSBUs, is provided for your review and approval. The MSBUs for which the 2022 assessments are levied were established previously by ordinance adopted at various public hearings. The 2022 assessment rates for MSBUs with variable rates were authorized by the board resolution via resolution 2022-R74 on June 14, 2022. These rates were same as prior year, apart from the solid waste, which increased by 25% or $60 per dwelling due to unexpected and unprecedented increases in both consumer price index as well as fuel. We have on the screen a 10-year breakdown of the history of the rates, as well as comparisons for neighboring counties.
I can't really read that. Is there any way to make it more clear? Thank you. We're good? Thank you.
It's okay. Again, we're attempting to just show what neighboring counties are paying as far as their solid waste, as well as what we are currently paying, and as well as what we are proposing in that regard.
Can you just read those off?
Yes, sir.
For the benefit of everyone, because that
Sure.
it's hard to see.
In our county, we currently have 2 garbage pickups, 1 yard waste pickup, 1 recycle pickup, and 1 bulk pickup for a fee of $240, which is, we're proposing for that to go to $300.
That's a new fee, moving to 300.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Orange County, they have 1 garbage pickup, 1 yard waste, 1 recycle, and 1 bulk pickup for $250. We have gotten word that their assessment is increasing by $10 to $260. Osceola County, 1 garbage pickup, 1 yard waste pickup, 1 recycle, 1 bulk for $327. Volusia County, 1 garbage pickup, 1 yard waste, 1 recycle, 1 bulk pickup for $262. And lastly, Lake County, they have 2 garbage pickups, 1 yard waste, 1 recycle, and that is between $227 and $251 annually.
Thank you.
And this next slide is just our attempt to show that, over the last 10 years, what the rates have been. We have generally tried to remain steady and only increase when it's absolutely necessary. But again, because of the CPI and the fuel, you'll see the large spike, which brings us to the proposal today to increase. As required by Florida statute, both published and mailed notice of this hearing were issued. The assessment roll presented today reflects the data mailed to property owners via the NAVA notice, which went out on the 18th of July, 2022. The final roll to be submitted to the tax collector by September 15th for inclusion on the 2022 property tax roll will include minor updates to accommodate property record changes initiated by the property appraiser, as well as residential solid waste service option changes. Following public input, the requested board action is to adopt and provide certification of the 2022 consolidated non-ad valorem assessment roll.
Any questions for staff from the board? Thank you, Michael.
Yes, sir.
This time we hear from the public. Who do we have?
We have Eric Ralston, followed by Jim Ireland, followed by James Baez.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Eric Ralston. My address is 1920 Lake Reservoir Lane, right here in Sanford. And we have been there for the past 46 years. Since Waste Management has taken over the garbage pickup, the service has been substandard at best. The last 3 years have been hideous, and when you're supposed to have 52 pickups a year and you get 37 if you're lucky, it becomes an issue. Not to mention that half the time they don't put the ram down, and they spill their trash along the road when it's a 2-lane road, one in, one out, going to and from our house. The recycle, which is supposed to be picked up once a week, if they're not cross-contaminating with the garbage truck, may or may not be picked up. Since April of last year, we have not had a dedicated recycle driver other than on a hit-and-miss basis, and it being a supervisor from Waste Pro. That is only a few of the problems that we have encountered with them, besides being threatened by the recycle driver they did have, as well as if they were coming, they decided not to pick it up because the hour in which they got there, the cardboard got wet, or something from the road was in the can and it wasn't supposed to be there. I think it should not be approved, 25%, not even 5%, because they do not give the service that we're paying for now. I just hope you vote against it. Thank you.
Jim Ireland.
Excuse me,
Sir,
Commissioner
what
Lockhart.
was your address again?
1920 Lake Reservoir Lane.
Lake Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ed Cheney, I'm sorry.
No worries. Jim Ireland, followed by James Baez, followed by Isabel Muniz.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is Jim Ireland. I live at 950 Hobson Street, which is in the San Lando Springs subdivision area near the golf course. I have a small petition with 18 households that I would like to present to you, and on our petition, it reads as follows. We, the people of Seminole County, living in the San Lando Springs area with the following addresses, are opposed to a $60 increase in our solid waste management option 1, which includes 2 garbage, 1 recycle, 1 yard waste, from $240 to $300 per year. Although the price increase may be warranted, as this gentleman has mentioned, we feel that a 25% increase is very excessive. I would like to present these names of these people here for the record. Now, these homes are mainly on Hobson Street, and as you well know, this is election season, and it's very difficult to get people to answer their doors when you come with a clipboard, okay? So my wife and I got 18 names, and out of those 18 houses that we went to, 100% were opposed. The other people we went to did not answer their door, which I didn't blame them. To address our yard waste, when we bid in this home, it's a brand-new home we built 7 years ago on an empty lot. We had an option of 1 garbage, 1 recycle, and 1 yard waste per week. It was an option of doing 2 garbage. We had an option in the beginning. I can only assume that the option was dropped to 2, 1, and 1 because of, I'm not too sure why, but it was probably too hard to figure out who was paying for what, and people were paying for 1, were probably getting 2. So that being said, the garbage trucks that do go down Hobson Street in my area, the road is very narrow. The mailman goes up and down the street because he's on the right side of the car. The garbage truck, they're in the back. Why the garbage in the entire San Lando area makes 2 trips up and down every street in our neighborhood to collect garbage where they can't just go back and forth because they're back behind the truck, and make double trips would account for your fuel waste. Tremendous. 2 trips on every road in the San Lando Springs area. So please check that out, because that's been going on for quite a few years. I don't understand why. That being said, yes, they do miss some days. I would expect them going up and down the streets twice. They probably forget one side of the road because they just went down one way and then whatever. But that being said, I appreciate the time today, and we definitely are opposed to that increase. Like I said, some increase may be warranted because everything is again getting expensive, but that's way too excessive for the people in our area and all Seminole County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
James Baez, followed by Isabel Muniz, followed by Melanie Cross.
Good afternoon. My name is James Baez. I live in 3308 Curtis Drive in Apopka, Florida, although it's a part of unincorporated Seminole County. I'm here to speak on behalf of the senior citizens like myself who are on fixed incomes. A lot of them who may be voting at the polls right now and don't have a chance to come and speak. I encourage the council to reduce the amount of this increase from $60 to a more reasonable amount, because nobody is increasing Social Security or any of our other retirement benefits. So I encourage you to reject this outright 25% increase. I realize that costs have gone up, but not to that extent, and I want this council to take a stand on behalf of the senior citizens who are on a fixed income and take a hard look at the things that come before it, so that it's a more reasonable cost that can be more absorbable. I called the county when I first received this, and I asked them, what can I do to help the system work better and be more efficient. I said, can I use the option of one pickup per week and reduce the number of trips that they have to come to pick up my trash? And they said, that's no longer possible. You have to, it's 2 or nothing. That's totally unacceptable. I'm trying to work with the county to help them to reduce the cost of doing business to these carriers, and they just couldn't care less. Now, I would also say that I'm sure these numbers were generated when diesel was costing about $6 a gallon. Because we're in election seasons in 2022 and 2024, I expect the cost will continue to go down, and this will be a much larger profit for the counties than it is right now. I encourage the council to reject the $60 increase and come up with a more reasonable solution for the senior citizens who are not here today because they're either working in the polls or voting. It's a very inconvenient thing to have this meeting during an election day when people can't come and attend and express their voice. That is a clash, a conflict that should have been avoided. Thank you.
Isabel Munez, followed by Melanie Cross, followed by Renee Fossey.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabel Munez. I live at 415 Beth Drive, Sanford. I'm here today because I really want to offer my opinion. I don't think it's right for us to continue getting increases from different companies, and everything is getting out of hand. Everything is getting so expensive, and I don't understand why the Waste Management can just do one pickup of garbage if they're so worried about their balance and their, having not enough money. We don't get increases in our pays, but we're getting increases in everything else around us. And somebody has to do something to get things better, not worse. I'm not getting an increase in my job to continue paying everything that is getting so expensive nowadays. It's time for us to get actually somebody to speak for us and let us, help us out, instead of letting all these companies come here and suggest that they have to increase everything that they do for us. Well, I'm not getting any increases in my job or in anything else. I think that they could manage just fine if they cut down, instead of 2 in Seminole, instead of 2 pickups of garbage, then they do just 1. And it's true what they say about the garbage. Sometimes they drop stuff and they just leave a big mess, and they just keep on going for the owners to pick up after them. I don't think it's fair for us to continue to get all these companies to increase their services and then us not getting anybody to help us out. I hope you consider not to allow this to continue to happen, because I can't afford it. And so a lot of people, I don't have to be a senior citizen, 80 years old or anything like that. A regular person with a regular job, things are getting excessively expensive. So please consider not to continue letting this happen. I appreciate everything if you can help us. Thank you.
Melanie Cross, followed by Renee Fossey, followed by Richard Fry, maybe?
Okay, I'm Melanie Cross, live at 742 Holbrook in Lake Mary. These folks have made my speaking easier, because I agree with everything that they've said. We don't have the options of 1 per week. The price of diesel probably will come down, and like the lady that just spoke, we're all hurting from this inflationary period. Our salaries don't go any farther because of that. We don't get an increase. I think the idea of why they don't go back and forth, that's always mystified me. They drive down the street, do one side of the street, and then after a while they come back and it just seems extremely wasteful. I'm sure that since everybody's had to kind of tighten their belt, that they could come up with a reason to do that as well. Possibly there's negotiations that still need to be made, but this is a particularly terrible time to put this increase on us, because everything is going up so much. And I just think that it hasn't been looked at possibly, as extensively as it could be. I don't know that for sure, but I think that it should be postponed at least until further analysis could determine what options there are for the citizens of Seminole County. Thank you.
Renee Fossey, followed by, I think, Richard Fry, followed by Michael Manahan.
Hello, I'm Renee Fossey. Live at 3981 Aldergate Place, Winter Springs, 32708. I just have some general questions, mainly about street lighting. I know my neighborhood was talking about getting updated or upgraded street lighting a while ago, and there's a process to it. If you could just explain what the process is, since I'm not familiar with it, because it does mention LED equipment needs to be updated. What does equipment mean specifically? Is it the entire post? Is it just the actual lights? Is it just the physical LED bulbs? It's kind of important to know what to expect. And the cost, was that included in this nice gentleman's general $60 per dwelling, or is that just the waste management portion? I used to work at Waste Management a long time ago, by the way, and I remember how we used to have pizza parties after hours and literally had a list of commercial accounts, and we would just literally take a pen and randomly increase people until we got to the specific dollar amount. It was not based on CPI, Consumer Price Index, or any measurable item. So going back to what the previous people said, and I know I'm switching off the lights, going to solid waste, if it could just be raised proportionally, that would be awesome. But anyway, back to the lights. So specific questions besides the equipment. When would this take place? Is there anybody we should contact specifically? They did mention the MSBU program representatives. I do have a phone number that was listed, but I assume there's different contacts for different subdivisions. I own at least 2 houses in Seminole County. One is in Forest Creek subdivision. That's the main one. Mr. Delari helped us with our subdivision years ago. Thank you. And then another one is Renwood. So I was just curious about that. And how do they determine which equipment? So if it is the entire light post, do you go by age or just functionality? Because both neighborhoods are older. Some are built in the 60s, and the other neighborhood was built like Forest Creek. Some of the houses are from the 70s. Mine's newer. It was built in 2001. So I was wondering how it just determined, let's see what else. Which neighborhoods, and what can we do as individuals? I mean, do we contact the MSBU? Do I have to go door to door, get petitions? Just let me know what to do. And then on another topic real quick, I love Seminole County. I've lived here forever. Love the green space in between. And so I'm for growth. I'm in real estate. And I understand it. Whoops, real quick. Is there anything we can do to help keep the dense treed acreage? Like, I'm for changing something such as the dog track that's not used anymore to a medium density, or taking something that's light density residential, changing it to medium density. But when there's trees and forest, just mowing them down, is there anything we can do to kind of help
We'll
curb
try to
that?
address that.
Anyway, thank you.
I think this says Richard Fry, followed by Michael Monahan.
Mr. Fry?
No, my name's Young.
Okay, sorry.
Is this your speakerphone? Is this your speakerphone?
Yes. Okay, the Lake County one was incorrect. I had a friend that lived on Green Tree Lane off 437. He said his garbage pickup was 150, and he had 140-gallon automated pickup once a week. And my son lives in Ocala, they get garbage, it is $180 a year for 2 times 3 pickups a week. So you're over you chose the high-priced ones. And it may be some in town of Lake County it's that high, but it's not where on Green Tree Lane was.
Okay.
And I think it's over the top. I'm almost 80. Social Security's not giving me more money. You're just taking more. And as far as the pickup lackluster, they have forgotten 5 or 6 times in the last 4 months. Just drove on by. Just not acceptable. We just need another contract with another contractor.
Okay.
Maybe they'll do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Monahan, followed by Jeff Crisco.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Michael Monahan. I live at 4340 Rocky Ridge Place. I'm just basically reiterating what everyone has already mentioned. It seems like an arbitrary number, and a very high one at that. To go twice the inflation rate on one increase, I don't think it's called for. My particular, the gentlemen who pick up my trash, they do a great job. So I did want to mention that. I'm a very satisfied customer, but the pricing is getting, I believe, quite out of hand. That's a lot of money. It's a big increase, and I don't see anything backing that up. Fuel has gone up, so an increase of maybe 9%, 10%, that's reasonable. $60, hard to justify that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jeff Crisco.
What was the name again? Cheney?
Jeff Crisco.
Mr. Crisco, you here? Oh, there.
Jeff Crisco, 117 Leah Avenue in Longwood. Again, like everyone else, I'm just basically going to repeat what everyone else has already had said. 25% of an increase is really rather high. I work for a company, we have diesel trucks all over the place. And we were instructed when the gas prices came up to raise the price up over service and do a 5% increase. And now they have gone down. Us as the salespeople, we can take that off the table. So now that prices are going down, are you willing to go down a little bit too, up 25%? I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. We have recycles that we're told go in the recycle portion of the truck. It's not the case. It's not happening. Recycle portion is full. It gets dumped in the trash side. So we're paying for a service that's just not happening. Again, also not fair. So I do believe that you people should have a responsibility to listen to all of us who are here, who took the time out of our workday, and just do the right thing for everyone else who's working hard in this country just to stay afloat. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? That was the end of the written request. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this? I think you've already spoken, sir. I'm sorry. Mr. Jones?
So, Mr. Jones.
I think, my name is John Edward Jones, and I've lived in Seminole County since 1971 in the Rolling Hills area on the corner of originally a Hobson and Seminole, and now live at 450 Andrews Drive. And you don't need to hear this from a lawyer, and you don't need to hear him speak too long. Everything that they've said is true relative to and I agree with those comments. And I've had the same situation relative to everything that they've said in a very nice Rolling Hills subdivision. And Chairman Bob DeLaurie has been by our house, and many of you also probably know where that is. And so I think it's very valid, the comments that they've said, and relative to the increase, the cost, the way they drive relative to both ways on the same narrow streets that were never approved for double passing anyway, all the way to back when Carlton Henley was on the commission. So I thank you for your time, I thank you for your service, and I appreciate your listening to all of the citizens' comments without having to hear from a lawyer that's been practicing law here for over 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to speak either for or against this issue before I close public comments? I'm going to close public comments. They're now closed. I'd like to ask staff to come back up to the podium. Can you address some of the questions? Or would you like for us to ask them again?
Yes, sir. Totally empathetic to what everyone has said, and I will say that proposing this increase was really and truly a last resort. We started to see last July about a 40% increase in what we were paying out per contractual terms to the haulers every month, and it just caused us to subsequently eat into our reserves, which are at this point minimal. And that's when we started to have to really look at increasing the assessments. If we are to see a reduction in the prices of fuel and things of that nature, of course, we would look at that time, which would be next year, of doing a reduction of the assessments. But as we kind of stand here now, this is quite frankly where we are, and we feel that this is the only course of action that we have at this time.
Commissioner Lockhart.
I think, I think we all probably are going to have some questions and ask for some further clarification, because I think this is the end of a process that unfortunately the public is now seeing, because you got the notifications in the mail, you're like, what the heck happened? Get it. What you didn't see were the many presentations and meetings that we had leading up to this decision when staff presented all of the increases and we reviewed the contracts, and the county manager and legal have been involved, and it's been a many months long, albeit difficult, not pleasant experience. We have dug very deep into this with you all. In addition to diesel or fuel, because not all of the trucks run on diesel, what are some of the other cost escalators in our contract that created these increases?
I would like to defer to my CFO.
Lori Bailey Brown, CFO and Resource Management Director. So the two price adjustments that we have in our contract are CPI and the fuel rates. And we did change from a diesel fuel rate to a CNG last July. That was a big change for us. In fact, the compressed natural gas rates are increasing faster than diesel. So we were really hit last July with an increase that we were able to subsidize. We had already set rates at that point. Quite frankly. Then in January each year, we get an escalator for CPI. That's been around 5-6%. This past January, it was 5%. So we're really passing those costs that we're experiencing in the MSBU. I would also like to just make it clear that this one fund collects the money from the residents and pays the bills. There's nothing else going on in there. So the rates are set specifically to collect the money to pay the haulers and to pay the tipping fees at the landfill. It is complicated to lay out in the future, and we are looking at these numbers in the springtime to see how we're doing. Like I said, last July, when that CNG rate came into effect, it was a big hit. And it's been a hit the following January when CPI hits, we get a diesel rate adjustment as well, or I'm sorry, CNG now. Rate adjustment as well. So typically the diesel rates were going down, offsetting some of the CPI, which is why we were able to offer those flatter rates. But now with CNG increasing at the same time as CPI, it's been a double whammy. And so in order to cover the bills that are due next year, this is the rate we'll have to charge. If those rates come down, if the indexes come down, we would, of course, adjust the rates to reflect that. And we have in reserves enough money to pay the haulers for October and November, just enough until we get to November's collection of tax payments, when we'll use those funds to pay the next month's bill. So we have reduced reserves down to the bare minimum.
Thank you. I'm sure there'll be other questions.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Zimbow?
I do.
Mr. Zimbow?
Explain to us, if you will, contractual agreements. And I know in the presentation there was discussion about the contracts, going back out to bid, how that would all work, so on and so forth. And I've done a little bit of my own homework, and I think part of the problems are, as a businessman, we all know expenses have gone up. My private business expenses have gone up. Wages have had to go up. You can't find enough help. You got all these moving parts. But the reality being is, when I've looked into it, it seems like there's little to no competition in the marketplace. And so what are our options? I mean, if there's only one or two haulers that are capable of providing a service, is the alternative the county makes their own fleet of trucks? What is it?
Tricia just left the building.
Yeah, I know they don't want to hear that. I mean, that's a big that's a big chunk of money.
Government runs things so efficiently.
Yes, because government does it so well.
Very good question. We are in a 10-year contract with our current haulers. We have 2 different haulers throughout the various districts. And those were created, I believe that was in 2018. So we are committed, as much as we're in a contract, to continue to provided those services. We must pay the agreed upon rates with those indexes that adjust every 6 months. If we wanted to, and we talked about this some back when we saw the price hit coming, if we wanted to renegotiate those, that is certainly up to the board to go back and recontract these. What we're seeing, though, when you compare our rates to neighboring counties, and they were neighboring counties we chose, the typical ones that we compare to, you can see that our rates are not much different than those for 1 pickup. So we're getting the service of 2 pickups, close to what our neighboring counties are charging for 1 pickup. So you got to consider, when you go back to the table, will you come out better with a better contract than what you currently have?
And then, and you may not be the right person, Lori, I'm sorry, it may be Ms. Ornberg, but there's been this issue with recyclables, that once upon a time, we used to be able to sell our recyclables and bring money in, and now it's my understanding we're having to pay, in some cases, to have those recyclables hauled off or taken care of that otherwise we used to get some revenue off of?
Hi, Kim Ornberg, Interim Director of Environmental Services. Yes, it's my understanding that there was a time years ago that we used to bring in quite a bit, relatively, for recycling, but the fees or the money back on a lot of those items aren't what they used to be. We still do. They all still go to our recycling facility that we contract with in Cocoa, and they have a really amazing facility that's very high tech and separates everything. It used to be 2 streams, now it's all 1, and they can separate it by color and plastic. But the reimbursement or the fees that we used to get back from that have decreased significantly over the years.
Thank you. That's all I have at this time.
Commissioner Herr?
I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit to the service side of this equation, because there were 2 problems presented. One is the increase, which would, if we don't pay market rate for a service, your service is going to deteriorate even worse. But to the issue of ongoing gaps in service is of significant concern, and we all know we've heard a bunch of these complaints. I will tell you that the gentleman that you asked the address for, 1920 Lake Reservoir, I was not sure whether that was Waste Management or Waste Pro, because both were used. But I do think that we need to determine where those gaps are consistent and make sure that they're held to a level of accountability in terms of service. I have no doubt that you have counted 37 out of 52 pickups. I just believe that number, whoever it was that said that. And so I'd like to know how we're managing to that. Otherwise, we shouldn't be paying for 52 pickups. And then from my perspective, I believe the reason why the trucks, you can't pick up on both sides of the street is because that is a clear safety concern, even though the street is narrow. And I have to give the disclaimer, I am not a property and casualty licensed insurance agent, but I do have run an insurance agency before, and I doubt they can get an insurer that would say, sure, jump off the truck and run in both directions on the street. I do think it's worth asking the question, though. Is there an exception that can be made on these exceptionally narrow streets? I think the answer to that question is going to be no, but out of respect for the concern coming up, I think we should ask the question.
We can definitely address that and ask the question. As far as the first question was managing the...
Holding them to a service level.
Yes, and we with our customer service between MSBU and with the Solid Waste Division, we have customer service. We track those. We actually go out and have our solid waste staff go out and confirm a lot of those, and then we have a system in place to find, if there's, per the contract, they have to, missing a certain number at an address of pickups, then they go, we can find them for that. And so we have that process in place. They have had, and I think you all alluded to this, but they have been struggling the same as everyone else as far as staffing levels, and I know they've had to make adjustments with their runs and their routes and had, changed them up. I know me personally, I live in unincorporated and have seen that, changes to that. So I know that they've been struggling and trying to work. So we've been working with them on that.
Commissioner Lockhart.
Level of service is a huge issue, and I have some problem children in my district. There are just some certain streets and some neighborhoods that just habitually are overlooked, and when our team from Solid Waste gets in touch with the hauler, it's documented, and then it always seems like we never quite meet the threshold for there to be a penalty. So as we look at contracts and perhaps renegotiation, that's something that I would be very curious about. What are those thresholds currently, and why is it we can never, they dozens and dozens of missed pickups, and I know if they can, theoretically, if they get back within, within 24 hours?
24 hours.
Then that counts as they, right? But it doesn't matter, because then you got to haul the trash back in, you got to haul the trash back out, and it's a whole situation, and I get it. So that's something we need to look at. The issue of one time a week pickup for single member or two folks in a household, I completely understand paying for a service that you don't need. For families with multiple kids and pets, and one time a week would be disastrous for some of our families because you would have so much garbage piling up, buying extra garbage cans. So if there are any suggestions about how we can look at that, the guys who do a phenomenal job picking up the garbage don't know that Mrs. Smith pays for only one time a week and which addresses to skip. And frankly, Mrs. Smith may just think the garbage comes every day and she puts her garbage out with everybody else. So it may not be intentional, but if there's some way to think about that more creatively, I'm open to that discussion. A comment about commercial pickup was made, and I just want to make sure everyone understands this is residential garbage pickup. There is nothing about commercial in this conversation. I think that's critical because, especially with our different cities, they have different contracts, and in some cases, they're commercial underwrites, they're residential. So that's a whole nother conversation. I don't know if you have, Lori, any of the graphs that you shared with us when we made this decision a couple of months ago handy. Are they here? Do you have them available that we could throw one up on the screen to kind of quickly run through that? Or
Additional graphs of?
That showed the year over year and our costs to the fund that then we were dipping into reserves. There may be some folks here who might want to get in touch with you afterward if they are more interested in that level of detail. I think we certainly have it available for them. The only other thing that I will say is this has come up in my own neighborhood, and every neighborhood seems to have a Facebook group that everybody piles on, and they know where I live. So this was a topic of conversation in my neighborhood Facebook group not long ago. And it was such a split opinion of this is unconscionable, $60 a year is not reasonable, and then the mixture of I love service, I love getting it 2 days a week, and I think the guys do a great job. And it was almost like you would think that they were folks living in two different neighborhoods with two completely different experiences. And so I don't know why that is, why some streets seem to have phenomenal service experiences and other streets in the exact same neighborhood feel like they're being, left out in the cold. But I think you're hearing from this board that we want to get to the bottom of it. Because if you're paying for the service, you should be getting it. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Constantine, you have anything?
Yeah, thank you. The level of service, I think, is the key to the problem. I mean, during the transition from advanced to waste management, we had a lot of calls, and it had, it was almost a daily basis of various folks. It seemed to be the same people, whereas the other commissioners have mentioned, we're having the problem. And we would again and again have to go back, but it was part of the transition of going from one company to another. But at the same time, there was also, in digging deeper to this and bringing up the cost, there were obviously the lack of drivers in some cases. And one that surprised me was the additional garbage that people were putting out from the pandemic. Staying at home more, they had more garbage. And so there was more, so people were having to take it, they were filling up the truck quicker, so they were having to go to the landfill, and they weren't coming back. And, again, there was a lot of different problems and a lot of different scenarios going on. The one thing that I kept asking is, would it make a major difference to do it once a week as opposed to twice a week? And I know that there were some numbers thrown out, and it didn't seem to be making a significant difference, and in the price. And it was the question was, once you can't have, as someone indicated, no one knows who has the twice a week. No one, once a week. We had to go to one or the other, and it's for someone like me, single. I don't need it but once a week, or quite frankly, I don't need it but once a month, where but at the same time, we were all in this together, and you could not have one price for one person, another price for another person. But I would like, as we move down the road, to see if, one pickup would make a difference. The other thing I wanted to say is when we were talking about government taking it over, I saw some heads shake. Well, I live in Altamont Springs, so I get Altamont Springs garbage collection. Altamont Springs garbage collection is owned by the city of Altamont Springs, as opposed to having contracts. The price is similar. Twice a week, once for recycling, but the price per month that I pay as compared to county is, if not exact, it's very similar, very close to what it is. And I think it was more before this rate, and I don't know what the difference is now, but it's very similar and very close. But I know that the level of service has been lacking. I know that there has been a lot of consternation about that. I know that it has improved lately because I'm getting less phone calls every day on that, but I would like to see, as we move forward, if there is a significant difference on the one pickup as opposed to two. Now, the problem with that is, as Commissioner Lockhart said, is there's a lot of people in this community that are families, that if we go from two to one, they would have a lot of problem. And we are all in this, together. We can't have, differences of service levels. It's got to be one or the other.
Lori, I got a question for you. I know you've gone through the analysis with us in several work sessions regarding the cost, and we all know from the board level as well as staff level that the cost has gone up drastically, significantly over the past year and a half. That's almost verbatim what you said to us, correct?
Correct.
Is there any way, is this time sensitive? Is there another way to take a look at this to see if there's a way to combat this? Or is this something that needs to be approved today?
Actually, I would say it is time sensitive. It's the tax roll that we're certifying today to the property appraiser for all MSBU's, not just the solid waste.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner, if I can,
Go right
please.
ahead.
There were other questions about lights and everything. Would you address that real quick, please?
Yeah, I'll let Michael address this,
Back and forth, okay.
Well, can I make an alternative suggestion that Michael and that one resident that was interested in lights for that one community get together after the meeting? Because I think you'll get a better level of detail and create the connection. This is the guy you need to talk to. I don't think
and
so.
we have a phone number they can contact directly.
Okay, any other discussion for the board? What direction would the board like to take?
Make a motion to approve the 2022 consolidated non-ad valorem assessment roll and certification.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion
Nay.
passes. Motion passes 4-1. Okay. Okay. Before we go on to the county manager report, I would like to take a 5-minute recess. Any argument? Okay with it?
know where it came from, but
Thank
it's
you.
quite nice.
At this time, we'll go to the county manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few items for the board. First and foremost, actually, I should say next week, Rick Durr, our Director of Leisure Services, will be installed as FRPA's Vice President of the Board of Directors. So congratulations, Rick. 2-year term, so he's going to be even busier than ever, but it's quite an honor for Rick and for the county. For our employees, our outreach for our new health insurance starting in January with Cigna began. The employee customer service line offered by Cigna is now open 24/7. Employees can call the line with any questions. We also started our outreach in-person events last week. They'll continue through September. These will also be offered virtually, and SGTV will record so employees can see them via SharePoint if they like. These dates were sent out earlier today by Human Resources, so employees who do have email should check that for more information. And we're working with Cigna and Alliant to ensure employees who don't utilize email will get hard copies of all the activities so they can participate. Our Envision 2045 conference is tomorrow. For those who are watching and would like to still register, they can go to SeminoleCountyFL.gov/Envision Seminole 2045. Begins at 11:45 tomorrow. Additionally, we have more than 2,000 folks that have now responded to our survey, which is definitely blowing the 1,000 goal out of the water. So congratulations to Rebecca and her team and Ashley and her team for getting that done.
Great.
It's quite a success, and that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. County Attorney's report?
No report at this time.
Okay, thank you. District report, District 4.
Yeah. The only thing that I have to bring to the board for hopefully some consensus and some direction, over the course of the last couple of months, there's been a lot of conversation, of course, about the penny sales tax and different potential revenue sources for our Seminole Forever program. And I've had multiple conversations with elected officials from different cities and the school board, as well as the superintendent of the school district, and they are asking when we are going to set a date to start having conversations. And because we have not had a conversation as a board yet about that specific topic, it was a little hard for me to tell them when we plan to start including them in the conversation. So if I could just get some sense of when we might be setting a date to have some official conversations about that.
Can I address that, if you wouldn't mind? During the mayors and county managers meetings, we've discussed it where we've said starting January of 2023, all that discussion would start to get rolled out. From elected officials to staff and back and forth.
Okay, the folks that I've talked to didn't have that impression at all.
They were
So
at the meetings, they should have gotten that impression.
So we do have a mayors and managers meeting in September and another in October. We do not have them in November, December of this year. Mr. Chairman, I don't participate in those meetings, so don't want to overstep, but would there be benefit to discussing?
We can discuss it at those meetings. We have in the past. And
how are you going to discuss it at mayors and managers when we haven't discussed it yet?
no, well, we've discussed at mayors and managers that we would be bringing to our board as well as other boards in January 2023. That's all we've discussed.
To begin the discussion.
To begin the discussion. That's all we talked about.
Now?
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Each city and county needs to put together their programs and their projects. And I will say, prior to even you being chairman, there has been discussions of them starting to develop their list.
True.
So, I mean, that discussion with the managers and the mayors has been done. I think that what, Commissioner, I see what you, no, I'm thinking of what, I see where your concern might be, but I do believe that even in 4 years hence when we did it, we started the year of, that we really started consolidating all the different, each city and the school board and the county started putting collectively together through the managers.
I'm just concerned that we just received an email from the acting county manager stating that in September, he was going to be bringing forward an ordinance on Seminole Forever. And as we all said at the last meeting, the key to that working is the funding. And so it just seems like, and I've read emails from citizens asking if the penny would be a part of that potentially. And so if we're going to wait until January to start having that conversation, I'm just a little concerned that we will have a hard time explaining how we plan on funding Seminole Forever if we don't have at least a little bit of a penny conversation.
Commissioner Herr?
So I can weigh in as the person that worked on the non-elected side of this twice, that the further behind this 8 ball we get, the more difficult it is to socialize it effectively. And so my perspective is that for the lucky citizens that get to work this issue, that time is of the essence and we shouldn't be holding them up. It would seem to me that the mayors and managers crowd would be putting together some sort of a timeline that they would be socializing with their boards so that we actually are all, to the degree that we can be aligned at least on a timeline of when our deliverables are back to the larger group, et cetera.
And again, conversations that we've had in mayors and managers meetings past couple of months was that we've had discussions about this, is that we would start formalizing discussions with all groups in January. But we'll bring it back to the board. If you want to have discussions earlier, we can do that.
I think it's imperative. I think what I heard from a couple folks is that this wasn't discussed at mayors and managers the last couple of times that they met.
I can assure you it was discussed because we've had, I can tell you it was in Castleberry where we had that discussion. We had that discussion in Altamont 2 times.
All right, well then I guess.
And if they want to refresh, I'm sure we can refresh their memories.
If my fellow commissioners will forgive me, I must be on my way. I'll forego my district report. Y'all have a good evening. Got places I got to be. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. And it's getting ready to rain.
I just think that having a timeline, and certainly if mayors and managers is meeting in September, a timeline would be appropriate for discussion.
We will bring it up on that conversation at mayors and managers.
Thank you. If you would, I
Be
understand.
more than happy to.
That you're there representing this board, and so I think I'm hearing that we want to at least establish a timeline.
Sure. I have no problem with that at all.
Great.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
District 3?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I did want to point out, since Seminole Forever was put up, is that one of the aspects of it was that we would reevaluate the funding in 2 years. So, that's not necessarily the time, having to do the money from the 1 penny sales tax right now, but I just wanted to bring that up. In August, I represented the Florida Association of Counties at the 100th anniversary of the Florida League of Cities. It was quite an event and gala that they had, and it was, I think it fosters, one of the things that I've noticed since I came from the cities many years ago is that the relationship between the cities and the counties, not only here in Seminole County, but statewide, has improved dramatically, and usually they're on the same page working together, which is a wonderful thing. At the Tourist Development Council, which Commissioner Delory also made an appearance, it seems that we are doing much better than not only percentage-wise. It has not reached to the level that we had pre-pandemic, but it has far exceeded all of the estimates that we had in the past for this year. August 25th is the City of Apopka Lifeboat Project, or not the City of Apopka, in the City of Apopka, excuse me, the Lifeboat Project celebration of their 10 years is going to occur. That's where their offices are, and just wanted to, that's going to be at 3 o'clock on Thursday. Also, before we reach the next time, I want you to know it's going to be football season for UCF. Go Knights. I had to just bring that out. 2 games will happen, and hopefully we'll win them both before the next game, or the next meeting that we have. On September 10th at 6:30 a.m., the Tunnels for Towers 5K run will be done in Altamont Springs. Great event every single year. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say that, on a sad note, that this Saturday will be the funeral for Jim Harrison, the director of Lynx, who passed away. And Commissioner Herr, I want to thank you for keeping me informed about that. Jim and I had a very close relationship, being that I appointed him as chairman, or appointed him as director when I was chairman, and he did a phenomenal job for all of us as director of Lynx and putting it on the right course. And so I'm not only saddened, but it was a great loss for all of us, his passing this past week. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
District 5?
Yes, I'd like to give a big shout out to staff for the unexpected and really successful outcome of the 5 Points radio tower situation. This is just what we're great at. Somebody identified it, the rest of the team rallied around it, got it figured out, and it was all managed before we even knew about it, and that's magic. I also want to give a shout out. I heard 2 compliments from a citizen recently in a very casual conversation, and one is to Mike Garcia on our team, who was able to provide the Master Homeowners Association for Heathrow some educational opportunities around managing their private roads. They really operate like a small city with volunteer staff. He turned him on to DTS, which is one of our contractors, who was very gracious and pointed them in the right direction. They hired them, and they actually ended up not repairing streets that didn't need to be repaired and repairing storm drains that they were unaware that needed to be repaired. So they were eternally grateful. I thought I would pass that along. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And District 2, we forego that today. Under District 1, on the Seminole County, the Sunrail Board, there is a resolution of support for the Sunshine Corridor, and it's a draft. I'm going to hand out a couple different drafts.
I already read it.
I just want to pass it out. I want to make sure everybody has a copy. And I'm not asking for any decisions. I just want to make sure staff is working with everyone regarding that, and that they don't have one document yet, I believe, but when they do have one document, I'm sure that Mr. Chipak will be speaking to us, and then if you have any questions prior to that, please ask Mr. Chipak. Mr. Chipak, do you have any additional information you'd like to present?
Yes, the resolution of support is not a new concept. We did sign one in, or the CFCRC did sign one in February of 2021, which was in support of exploring the corridor that Brightline will be using to get eventually over to Tampa, but initially to get over to the I-Drive, South I-Drive area. Those discussions have progressed. The corridor has changed from the 417 to now along to 528 and then down I-4. The resolution that you have before you is a proposed resolution of support by the CFCRC again. However, my perspective is we don't want to miss out on an opportunity, but we don't want to state that we're picking up the check for it either.
Correct.
So at this point in time, the language is being, I had forwarded some alternative language to the group that had received the original resolution. Osceola has also sent alternative language, which in concept is similar to what I had sent. So it will be massaged, it will come back, you will see it before Commissioner Delory goes back and the resolution is presented in September to the CFCRC for some type of action. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. I was asked for a letter of support for pre-qualifying the Orlando Philharmonics. They're trying to get a grant for the school system regarding young people's concerts. We did send out a letter. This is just pre-qualifying. The real application is going to be asked of us if we want to participate, so this is just the first round. I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Since there was no financial aspect of it, I felt it was good to ask for the grant, and that the final grant will be bringing to the board for their support. And we're getting a letter from the support if the board wants to do that. And then finally, I do sit on the Kids House Board. There is a breakfast coming up, which is Wednesday the 31st. I want to make sure that everyone's aware of it. If you'd like to participate or ask people to sit at a table, please do so. We can send out digital information as well. Here's a hard copy, and it's at the Sheraton. And I will tell you, as we all know, it's getting harder and harder for organizations just like Kids House. In fact, as flush as the state has gotten, they've actually cut their funding, and so they're actually in need of additional funds, and that's why this breakfast is so important. That is the end of my report. We have no future agenda items requested. Now we'll go to public comments. Shani?
Bill Hyde?
Mr. Hyde.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bill Hyde. I live at 2379 Audley Street in Oviedo. I kind of hate to rain on the acting county manager's comments from earlier, but I'm going to. I got the invitation to participate in this Vision 2045. We were at some of the earlier sessions, and we got the one for the invitation for the one that's upcoming. And I read through it, and, it all sounds, touchy-feely and everything. And then I started to read the survey, and I started going through the questions on this survey, and I realized that it's really not a survey at all. It's a push poll. Y'all are all politicians, and you know how push polls work. This survey is a push poll. Questions like, are puppies warm and fuzzy, are the kind of questions that you're going to get in a push poll, because everybody is going to answer it the way it was designed to be answered. And that's exactly what this is. I predict that this push poll is going to come back and haunt this commission in terms of money, in terms of, and no disrespect, because I like your idea, by the way, for our Florida and our petty sales tax. The results of this are going to come back just like the results of the ones earlier came back, and they're going to beat, it's going to beat you over the head. And that's all I got to say about it. It's going to coerce you to do something out here and push everything into my neighborhoods and beat us up. I wish you hadn't done it this way. I wish you'd asked me, and I'm sure I could have worded those questions a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Joe Humphrey?
Gonna need the overhead again. Pictures. So, yep, check. Joe Humphreys, 883 Cardinal Point Cove. I'm the second half of the Hyde and Hump show.
Okay.
So, anyway, we talked about LDC stuff today. A number of you have been out, in fact, most of you, except possibly Lee, have been out to my neck of the woods in the last few months.
Rotate it.
That's the infamous Markham Landings. This is an example of what happens when we don't pay attention to setbacks. There wouldn't be no problems here in this community if we would have continued the 50-foot setback easement that was established for about 99% of the property. But because the engineers wanted to squeeze an extra house on a non-existent lake, this is what we ended up with. And it's been a problem. My apologies to the commissioner and her staff and the rest of the staff, because we've done a lot of time looking into this. So that's, again, comes back to the whole thing about we can pass all these rules and regulations, but we have to pay attention to the details. As somebody, I think, said earlier, talking about infrastructure, it looks great on paper. It always looks great on paper until you end up in the field. And I've had lots of experiences like that over the years. This, again, is Lake Markham. And that is a mistake. There's supposed to be a conservation easement on this lake. We have copies of the conservation easements. We have the conservation easements that Mr. Madden created, but the only problem is they didn't get communicated to anybody. They're apparently not on the final DO. So I'm trying to figure out where the breakdown in this process is. But we have a breakdown. This is an issue. And as, again, the commissioner's probably heard from a few of the other neighbors in the area, it's also happening on the other side of the lake as well. So, again, St. John's Water Management District is responsible for managing this easement, but again, we handle, and I talked to Grant Malloy about it, I've got copies of the documents from all of the recording agencies. I have a conservation easement, it's just shy of 2 acres, that Larry Dale created. I have the original document, I have the plat, everything that's on the plat maps tells me who the commissioner is, tells me that it's suburban estates, but we can't build anything there because it's swamp. So again, we're just trying to figure out where the problem in the system is. The list goes on and on. With development, this is what's headed for your future water supply, the St. Johns River. This is from one of the projects in the Sanford Farms area. The videos, the pictures don't tell the story. You need to see the videos. And I was absolutely dumbfounded when I found out yesterday that there's no indication in the process of applying for a development permit that says anything about siltation control. I got pictures here from the other side of Lake Markham, where they literally came in, cleared all the way to the lot line. I had multiple conversations with Mr. Calhoun. They've been out and inspected the area, but there was no siltation fences. Not only did they clear all the way to the water's edge, they literally opened a lane all the way out into the lake, which again, they weren't permitted to do that. So somehow the enforcement of our lakeshore ordinance, which we were all so excited about, is failing at best. So we have issues with following up, and I've had these conversations with Commissioner Zambauer. I'm sorry that he's not here for this, because he's agreed. He said, we have a problem. We issue DOs or whatever, then we don't know what's happened with them. So we can change the LDC all day long, but if we don't make sure that we're enforcing, then it's basically not doing us any good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Humphrey, can you leave those photos with the clerk? Jenny, anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience would like to address the board? Anyone else? Going to close public comments. Before we close, any other comments from the county manager, county attorney? From the board?
I actually would, since we heard that, I know Rebecca has done an extensive amount of work on Mr. Humphrey's issue. My office has been exceptionally involved. Commissioner Zimbauer was involved because he was on the P&Z when this originally went through the process. We did not realize we were both being called at one point. But Rebecca, would you like to add anything to this? Because there has been a considerable amount of staff time invested in addressing the issue so that we can learn from it.
Good afternoon. For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. So on the subdivision that was referenced by Mr. Humphreys, the Lake Markham Landing subdivision, it was approved originally around 2013, 2014. The conservation easement that Mr. Humphreys referenced isn't depicted on the plat for the subdivision. It was recorded by separate instrument. So it is a recorded conservation easement that was dedicated to the St. Johns River Water Management District. So it should show up on any survey work for a home, and it should show up on any title work. The other thing is the conservation easement does allow tree removal for like dead trees and allows maintenance. However, there was an instance with a homeowner who did remove some dead trees on his lot and did some underbrushing. One of our inspectors from our Public Works Engineering inspection team did go out and meet with the property owner, and that property owner did say he had an arborist report that demonstrated that the trees were dead. We're still waiting on that arborist report, but again, it is an easement that's dedicated to St. John, so ultimately, the enforcement of that conservation easement would be up to that agency.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? This meeting is now adjourned.